The Locked On Podcast Network presents the Big 6 in 60. The 6 biggest national sports stories from the local experts of the Locked On Podcast Network. Get the real story, why it matters, what's next, who wins the big game, and more, all in 60 minutes. The Big 6 in 60 starts now with the biggest story in sports.
I know the New York Giants just put up over 30 points on the Philadelphia Eagles defense in their second straight loss, but this game is all on the offense.
You are Locked On Eagles, your daily Philadelphia Eagles podcast.
I'm infuriated right now with this Philadelphia Eagles offense that is made up of a bunch of proven veteran stars that are getting top 5, top 10 money. And yet, despite that being a fact, despite them playing a team that's pretty much dead in the water, the 1-4 New York Giants, it's a get-right game, a short week on Thursday Night Football, coming off your first loss of the season. This offense, yet again, for the 5th time in 6 games this year, completely disappears in the second half of a football game. And the Eagles defense, I know, again, they were not good today. They did not tackle well. They did not cover well. Adoree Jackson and Keely Ringo, my God. I mean, they looked completely unplayable in this matchup against a Giants team that doesn't have any good wide receivers outside of, like, Wan'Dale Robinson's a solid third receiver on an NFL roster. But, again, the defense was not good. This was a very uncharacteristic Vic Fangio day where they just couldn't get off the field on third down. Jackson Dart continued to break sacks, break tackles, extend plays outside of structure. We said on the show this week that could be the way the Giants keep this game close or even pull off the upset. So I'm not letting the defense off the hook, but they were so banged up. They were down at one point in this game. Pretty much the majority of the game, they were without 3 of their top 4 players on this unit. Quinyon Mitchell goes out in the second quarter with a hamstring injury. Jalen Carter did not play in this football game. Nolan Smith, as we know, is on IR. I think their top 4 players are those 3 guys and then Zach Bond. Zach Bond was the only one on the field throughout all 4 quarters of this matchup. The Eagles defense has been carrying the Eagles offense all year long. They were the main reason that you were 4-0. So I'm not going to blame the defense in this one. The Eagles offense is playing, again, a dead-in-the-water Giants team that, yes, they have a really good pass rush, but their secondary is horrible. And you put up over 200 yards of offense in the first half, 17 points. And yet again, for the 5th time in 6 games, completely disappear, where you have under 40 yards in the third quarter heading into the fourth quarter in a 1-possession game. You put up 0 points in the second half yet again. They were terrible in the second half against Dallas. They were terrible in the first half against the Rams. They were terrible in the entire game against Kansas City. They were awful in the second half against Tampa Bay, against Denver, now against New York. It's unbelievable. The defense is bleeding. The youngest defense in football is finally begging you, like, hey, just once this year, Eagles offense that's supposed to be historically talented, that's cooking in the first half of games. Normally it's the opposite. They stink in the first half and they're great in the second half. It's been the opposite this year. They just need you one time this year to bail them out against a bad football team. And Jalen Hurts could not do it. Kevin Patullo could not do it. Nick Sirianni could not do it. It's unbelievable that this kind of talented offense with this much money and top draft picks invested in this unit is this Jekyll and Hyde every single year. This was the reality in 2024. This was the reality in 2023, in 2021 as well. Outside of 2022, the fact that this is what you get from this Eagles offense over and over again is so infuriating. And they never learn from their history. Kevin Patullo, I'm sorry, giving a rookie play caller the keys to this kind of historic offense 2 times in 3 years is unbelievable. That they did not learn from this mistake, that internal promotion at the offensive coordinator position in Philadelphia, the fact that they haven't learned that it does not work. If I'm Howie Roseman and if I'm Jeffrey Lurie this year and this trajectory continues for the offense, if I'm them, and I used to fault them for getting too involved with Doug Peterson's decisions on his coaching staff, with Nick Sirianni, like making him fire Sean Desai in 2023 and hiring Matt Patricia as the new defensive coordinator. I used to get on them for that. But this year, I think they have every right to go to Nick Sirianni and say, you are going to bring in a new play caller from outside this building with fresh new ideas, or you're fired. And I'm not doing the thing from last year where I'm calling for Nick Sirianni's job. But right now I'm starting to call for Kevin Patullo's job, because 6 games now is a pretty big sample size to know what this offense is. And it is so predictable. It is so vanilla. It is so inconsistent. Every single week when a defense adjusts to what you did well in the first half, and I'll give Patullo credit, his initial game script is a lot better than what Kellen Moore's was, what Doug Peterson's even used to be. Even Shane Steichen at times was slow out of the gate in the first half of football games. He's been a great red zone play caller. But when the fastball, like, to make a baseball analogy, and I'm sorry for Philly fans out there to make one on a night like tonight, but when Patullo's fastball stops working, when the defense figures it out, they have no counter. When the run game is not working, when it's not historically good like it was last year, they have no answers. And it's not all on just Kevin Patullo. Jalen Hurts, this is kind of who he is, guys. Like, he's a top 10 quarterback with top 5 moments. Luckily for the Eagles, his top 5 moments come in the biggest spots. Most of the time, it's late in games against really good teams. It's in the playoffs. It's in the NFC Championship. It's in the Super Bowl. This is not an indictment now about Jalen Hurts. I'm not calling for his job as the franchise quarterback. But from inside the pocket, when he has to carry you as a passer, and the run game's not working, and there's new play callers every year, and that's inconsistent, you're going to get ups and downs. Like, he's not as consistent inside the pocket as Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. He's just not. And unfortunately for the Eagles this year, Jalen has not been his best when it matters most. Sometimes he's been, like the Chiefs game in the second half of the Rams game, but 5 times now, I would say 4 of 6 games, Jalen Hurts has uncharacteristically disappeared in the second half of football games. And normally he saves his best for last in the clutch. And I thought he was really good in the first half again today, getting this team back on track, scoring 17 unanswered points when they were down 13-0. But Jalen has been terrible in the second half of games this year. And that's with Kevin Patullo's hand in that, but it's also on Jalen too. Jalen missed a wide open Devontae Smith in the third quarter. Yet again, another third quarter play that should have been a touchdown that likely wins you the football game. He missed the throw to A.J. Brown last week too. And then he throws that interception when you're down 10 at the end of the third quarter, heading into the fourth, that put this game on ice. Like, Jalen, characteristically, has been an up and down passer this year. But the fact that he is kind of collapsing in the most important spots, like, he's got to figure that out, because right now, the run game I thought was much better this week. Saquon Barkley looked a lot better than he has in weeks past. Same with the offensive line, but it does not look like a unit right now that can carry you. So Jalen Hurts, like, you have to put more of a consistent showing together week after week. You're in year 6. I mean, with all the talent he has, it can't be this inconsistent. Unfortunately, this is kind of who he is, though. Like, I've called a spade years ago. And that doesn't mean Jalen's not an elite football player, because he is. He's a Super Bowl champion. I want him to be the Eagles quarterback for the long term. But when you have a bad play caller like Kevin Patullo, when you have a run game that's not working or not being nearly as consistent as it has in years past, this is kind of what you get a lot of the times. And I feel like the debate could end if we just accept that. But the Eagles are not making it easy on him either, because Kevin Patullo is just, I'm sorry, he's not the answer. He's not the answer. And the defense gave up over 30 points. Like, that's a fact. They were horrible at tackling today. The angles they took getting to Jackson Dart was brutal. Jackson Dart, by the way, tip of the cap. What a ball player. I mean, he's a good quarterback. But considering the Giants' weapons, they should not have gotten shredded like that in the secondary. So even with the injuries, the defense is not, inexcusable. I don't want to use excuses for the defense, but I will say, like, I'm more angry at the Eagles offense, because the Eagles defense, considering the injuries, considering how many snaps they have to play every single week, I kind of understand it more. I will make more excuses for the defense than the offense. I just can't believe this is happening over and over again for a team that used to be the best second half offense in the NFL just a calendar year ago. And the fact that they can't close games out, they can't get back into football games, that they are this bad in the third and fourth quarter, I don't know. It's so frustrating that every single year after a Super Bowl run, this kind of stuff happens. And some of it is just the reality of a post-Super Bowl season. A lot of it's just out of their control. It's the reality of what you have to deal with. But they don't learn from the past. They don't. And that's the most frustrating part about this. It just feels like Groundhog's Day. And at 4-2, this team has to look themselves in the mirror and say, who do we want to be? Do we want to be the 2023 Eagles that collapse? Do we want to be the 2024 Eagles that figure this thing out? Right now, it's as bad as it was last year after the Tampa loss. It's that bad. This was supposed to be the easy part of your schedule, and you've dropped 2 straight games. And the schedule is not going to get easier. So, the injuries are piling up on defense. The offense is just inexcusably inconsistent.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Let's go, Big Blue. It's the New York Giants squad. Everything New York Giants every week. Breaking down all the big hits and game-changing plays from the G-Men. The way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. The Giant Squad Show starts now.
Mark, you called the Chargers win. I think we all thought they'd beat the Saints. None of us thought they beat the Eagles as handily as they did. That's some kind of win tonight.
No, it's a great win, I tell you. I did say that they had a shot. I did say that. But no, you're right. No one expected this kind of a blowout. What a game. What a flipping game. It was almost a perfect game, minus a few penalties, but they were overall, I think, almost flawless. They played a 95% game and had a great win.
Yeah, it's amazing, Brandon, considering the expectations we had. And obviously expectations mean nothing because we expected them to get roughed up by the Chargers. We expected them to beat the Saints, and we expected them to get roughed up by the Eagles, and the flip has happened in all 3 games.
Yeah, never know what you're going to get with this team, but I mean, it felt good. Look, I know it's more of a college Florida thing to say this, but belt to ass the whole game. I mean, it was just one hell of a performance. I loved it.
Yeah, and in so many areas too. And I guess at some point, and I'll be honest here, I felt like the shoe was going to drop at some point, the same way I felt with Washington and with Dallas the first 2 weeks. That being said, Brandon, we'll start here. It didn't happen. They held on.
Yeah, it didn't happen. They held on, and their run game was effective and consistent. And I think that that's probably the most important thing when you have that lead is to have a run game that you can actually rely on, a defense that at times showed up. It was really weird watching the defense in this game. It felt like some drives they just came out and they were firing, and then it felt like some drives defensive line wasn't getting push, and they were kind of slowly trying to push the pocket, which of course isn't going to work very effectively. But I mean, look, this was complimentary football at its finest. Cam Scatterbo destroyed. You know, we talked about the Chargers game where it's well, he was picking up tough yards, but he wasn't doing it consistently big yardage. I mean, he averaged over 5 yards per carry in this one. Great performance.
Mark, you're no stranger to the running game and defense. When you combine those two, you get a pretty potent attack. And that's what the Giants did tonight against a team we all thought was better than them.
Yeah, they were very balanced. That running game really opened up the passing game. And, what about the wide receivers? They stepped up and caught the ball. I mean, I think the whole league will write the Giants receiving core off. And I think I'm included, but those guys stepped up, made the plays. The running game was fantastic. The offensive line looked very, very good. It was a complete ass kicking. I mean, from start to finish, the special team stepped up and played well. And it was uncharacteristic that the Eagles, their special teams really floundered. The fumble out of bounds, the 2 fumbles, one in the end zone and brought on the kickoff. It was kind of uncharacteristic with that team, but I'm not taking them from the Giants. They played very, very well.
And you mentioned, Mark, getting off to a good start. The Giants scored more than 7 points in the first quarter for the first time, Brandon, since 2020. That's 81 games. They have not scored double digits in the first quarter, and they did so tonight. Getting off to a quick start, that's what the doctor ordered for Dart and company.
Yeah, and also, I will say this real quick, just to go back to what Mark just mentioned with the fumbles. We can all agree A.J. Dillon's going to be looking for a new job tomorrow, right? That was brutal for him with the kick return and the fumble. Yeah, so we can all agree on that one. Receiving core, productive. I don't think anybody was going into this game going, hey, you know who's going to pop off a little bit? Little Jordan Humphrey. That's who we think is going to go out there and do it. Offense looked cleaner than they've looked in a while. It's honestly, like, it's impressive to the point where I don't understand it with how bad they looked on Sunday against the Saints to that short week, but massive turnaround. It was just like, again, like it's impressive. I'm sure part of it was the Eagles not having Jalen Carter probably helped on the interior there, but it was wild to watch them just do a complete 180 in 4 days.
Yeah, Mark, what do you make of that? Because now we don't know week to week. Now we're assuming the Giants can win every game or lose every game. We don't know.
We can't do that. We can't do that because we did that when they played the Saints, and look what happened. No, you know what happens? I would venture to say, with the young core of players they have on offense and defense, it's still a growing process, almost a feast and famine kind of deal. You'll get the good, and you're happy with it, and then you'll get the bad we saw last week against the Saints. Now, it's one of those growing pains kind of deal. I don't know what's going to happen next week. No one's going to know. But let's savor the flavor with this one because they look damn good. And if anything, if we have to take the good and the bad, let's let it ride this year, because I think I'm feeling this myself, but I see the consistency coming next year, the few years. If the future is now, this is it. I'm looking forward to the future. So let's just ride this wave and see where it goes.
If we combine those as one backfield, the quarterback and the running back, both rookies, that is a bright future, Brandon, especially when he's running the ball effectively, meaning Dart. Obviously, when you have a great offensive line, which we don't assume the Giants have as of yet, when you have a great offensive line, it's much easier to run. Well, the Giants don't have a great offensive line and still managed to run the ball tonight. So that is a very important factor moving forward.
Yeah, I will say that Jackson Dart terrifies me with some of his runs.
No doubt.
Yeah.
Like I'm torn because I love having a quarterback that I know is just a competitor. And I feel like that's what you get when you watch Jackson Dart, like the diving for the first down and the fighting for yards. Like I love seeing that from a player where you just know he's going out there and laying it all on the line for you every single down, whether you're winning, losing, whatever it is. He's going out there and doing it. But I'm also watching the game going, for the love of God, just slide. Like, for the love of God, just get down there. But between Jackson Dart making you respect his legs, Cam Scattaboo, I mean, I think this was his best game just in terms of the physicality he ran with, just constantly keeping his legs moving against what I feel is still a pretty good Eagles defense. Like, they didn't look amazing out there, but they're still a very talented defense out there. I mean, if you can get that kind of production from Cam Scattaboo consistently, preferably less carries for Jackson Dart, which I don't know if you could do that in 2025, really. Like, if you're trying to win football games, I think you need to use Jackson Dart's legs. I think that in the future, if you could build around him and get him a better supporting cast, especially when you don't have the receivers right now, because great performance from them. I'm not going to bank on this receiving core producing the way they did tonight consistently. So I think for now, you got to just live with it and say, hey, Jackson Dart needs to use his legs in order to win football games for us. Hell of a performance. Terrifies me every single time. But if you're winning games, I'm cool with the years off my life if they come with wins.
Yeah, it's funny, too, because at the end of the game when they were up more than 2 scores and Scadaboo was still running the ball, the way you felt about Dart, I felt that about Scadaboo at points, too, where I was like, get him out of the game. Get Tracy in there. There's no reason to bang him around as much as you did in a game that you pretty much thought you were going to win. Anyways, that being said, Mark, let me just say this. When you have rookies that are sparks like that, what does that do for the rest of the team?
You saw it. You saw it over the last 3 weeks, minus the Saints game. That energy is very contagious, especially when they're producing and the production level is that high. It's infectious. You saw it. It goes to the offense, defense, the coaching staff. You saw Dable today. Dable almost he was walking into the tent when Jackson Dart got hurt. You see that? It was wild. He's following Jackson Dart to make sure he's okay. That's infectious. The team, the city, the fans, it's something to be excited about. I concur. I'm with the Brandon on watching Jackson run. I don't like him running a lot, and I wish the team didn't have to rely on that as much. But that's the game right now until other components are added especially next year. He'll learn. He won't be the second option. He could be the third option, like we see like a Patrick Mahomes. I want to see him like Mahomes run when you have to, instead of like a Josh Allen being part of the system. I don't want to see that with Dart.
LeBron James out for at least another 3 to 4 weeks.
You are Locked On Lakers, your daily Los Angeles Lakers podcast.
LeBron James, he doesn't just have some nerve pain in his glute, Andy. He's going to miss the next 3 to 4 weeks. He'll be reevaluated in 3 to 4 weeks, meaning the actual absence will probably be longer. Sciatica is the diagnosis, which just tells me the writers aren't working very hard.
Well, first of all, I was at practice on Thursday. We'll have more from practice with our full-length show that we'll record later on today. But JJ did, in giving us updates on LeBron, Luka, etc., said that LeBron was, quote, on his own timeline. Dude wasn't kidding.
And he said he sounded really annoyed when he said it, which I think I have no idea if how exactly they're related, but I guarantee you the tone of what JJ said, had it not been followed with this information of LeBron is going to be, can't even get evaluated. He's out for at least another 3 to 4 weeks. Without the additional context, it would have sounded just like JJ was annoyed that LeBron wasn't on the floor.
Right. And JJ was, again, we'll talk more about this in the full-length show, but JJ was very clearly not in the mood to talk. His entire post-practice media session was about a minute or less, which is very short for JJ. He is typically pretty good with answering questions, pretty detailed in the responses that he gives. Today, he was not in the mood to talk. We're starting to see more of a reason why, per Shams Charania. This diagnosis of sciatica will keep LeBron out 3 to 4 weeks. The sciatica, I just did a quick Google search, and the first thing that came up was from the Cleveland Clinic, which feels apropos. Sciatica is nerve pain from an injury or irritation in your sciatic nerve. In addition to pain, it can involve tingling or numbness in your back or butt that may radiate down your leg. More severe symptoms are possible, which I say this to demonstrate how this is obviously related to the glute nerve irritation that we were first hearing about with LeBron. Sciatica is either more specific, scarier sounding, or both.
Yeah, I mean, it is as an old person, Andy, I can tell you kind of is what it is. Like I've had some issues with sciatica. It's not necessarily fun, and when it's really flares up, it's really painful. So like I said, like the notion of like the injury that keeps LeBron from starting the season on time, that it's sciatica and he's in his 40s, it just feels lazy. But I look at this and like the let's just say that the reevaluation comes at 3 weeks. It's going to take another, you got and he is cleared to play.
4 full weeks will have LeBron missing the first 9 games of the season.
Right. And that's what I'm getting towards. And like if the evaluation period comes at the beginning of that 3 to 4 week period and he's cleared, he, because he has missed all this time with an injury, it's not like he broke his wrist where you can stay fit. You can do all there's only so much you can do while you are recovering from an injury like this. You have to add a week of fitness and all that kind of stuff. Practice, make sure there's no response. Practice, make sure so you're looking at a month. I think
that would be for anybody, much less a guy who's going to turn 41 in December.
Because what you really can't have is this, as much as possible, what you can't have, what you don't want to have. I mean, there is a limit as to how much control anybody has over it. But what you want to try to avoid is, taking the month off, rushing back, or doing it too quickly, and making this a recurring thing that kind of plagues LeBron throughout the season. So I think realistically for me, I look at this as like, he's not going to play for 5 to 6 weeks. I think if it's faster than that, great. I think anything faster than a month is probably unrealistic. 5 weeks would be a nice return. And like you say, if it's that 4-week reevaluation is 9 games, you add another couple for any kind of rehab, you don't expect them to come right back. It's reasonable to project, to me, LeBron missing the first quarter of the season.
It's certainly possible. Again, not a given, but 9 games feels like an absolute given. And given the age,
well, 9 is just
that's what I'm saying.
Seems like the bare minimum. Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, I'm going to bet on the high side, given LeBron's age and the fact that all Laker injuries are on the high side. So I'm going to go with 4 weeks. 4 weeks is the first 9 games of the season. And if you start stretching into 4.5 weeks, you pretty quickly get into 10 or 11 games.
Right. But that, again, I just want to make sure people understand 4 weeks is the timeline. 3 to 4 weeks is a timeline to be reevaluated.
Right.
As opposed to expected to return to the court.
I'm just saying because I don't know exactly what the rehab for sciatica involves, how much you can get yourself to some degree ready in real time while rehabbing. While I think it is unlikely, I am not entirely ruling out the possibility of a relatively quick return after 4 weeks if that could happen. Again, I'm not banking on it. I'm just saying I think it would be irresponsible to say it can't happen. So there you have 9 games. In the meantime, though, this obviously puts a big time damper and a big time hindrance on the Lakers trying to get the most out of a training camp that has already felt like it's gone into the crapper progressively since media day. We'll get into more of this in the full show, but Luka was not a full participant in Thursday's practice, which wasn't described as a particularly intensive one, but he still wasn't doing everything in it.
That makes it more concerning to me if they're not doing. He went from full participant last week to semi-participant this week.
Yeah,
so that's the trend.
Right. He is regressing, it would appear, in terms of his availability in health. Obviously, the Lakers have 4 preseason games next week. Some concerns might be assuaged if Luka is able to play on Sunday, but we will see. But the Lakers just feel like, especially when you look around the rest of the league and how many star players are playing for their teams in the preseason, it feels by any reasonable measure that the Lakers are behind where they should be and behind the rest of the league and behind the Western Conference, doesn't mean that they can't at some point catch up. And, depending on what Luka looks like ultimately on opening day, Marcus Smart, for example, did practice in full today and said that he felt very good. So fingers crossed, Luka gets back by the beginning of the season and everyone else stays healthy. Maybe the Lakers can, keep the train on the tracks reasonably well until LeBron gets back. But they need LeBron to be the fullest version of themselves. And for the time being, that ain't going to be happening for a while.
It is not. And, it's certainly, you get from the tone of Redick today at practice. And obviously, if you're fan, you can find all this stuff. I think the Lakers posted, but Redick's time with the media is posted in any number of ways across socials. He was frustrated, clearly visibly frustrated with not being able to get Luka and LeBron on the floor. And obviously, I've been saying, there have been fans, and there are fans in the chat that I can see reading right now think this is LeBron, pitching a fit for not getting his contract extension and all these other things, which all of this is ridiculous. But it was looking pretty clear to me that this was not a camp team LeBron just kind of not wanting to participate in the preseason very much, year 23, all that kind of stuff. It was much more of a can't do it rather than not really wanting to or just being super cautious. My concern now is with Luka that he's starting to become in the same, I am sure, I would not be at all surprised. I can't say I'm sure, I haven't talked to them, but that Luka's team has a plan for him this preseason. They all got together, came to camp with a plan. I seriously doubt that plan was go hard the first week and take the second week off. Maybe it was, but I also feel like if it was, the Lakers wouldn't be particularly cryptic about it. I mean, I at some point
they have not been sharing details about what has been going on with Luka. I asked JJ point blank, did Luka scrimmage in full in the first week, like we were given the impression, and he said yes, which is great, but
that was to clarify the confusion from
DeAndre Ayton's comments.
Which again, we talked about this for Thursday's show. I think people, DeAndre Ayton was answering the question, I think literally, what's it like to work with those two guys on the floor? I don't know. I haven't done it because LeBron James hasn't played. So I think at some point, the Lakers are taking Friday off, or scheduled to take Friday off. They're scheduled to have sort of a light practice to prepare for Sunday's game. If Luka doesn't play on Sunday, if he doesn't play on Tuesday, if he doesn't practice on Saturday, there's at some point, some sort of explanation is required. I will say this: if the question is JJ taking the preseason seriously in terms of whatever, the answer is obviously yes, because his reaction to all of this stuff was not one that screamed to me, we, meaning I don't want Luka on the floor. I want him to take it easy. That is not the impression that I'm left with. This is to me, feels like Luka, for some reason, it is seen as smarter for him not to practice, and that makes me nervous.
Well, if nothing else, it's a great way for LeBron to sell some Hennessy, because there's a lot of Laker fans right now who could use a drink. So kudos to the synergy there.
Cocktails that have both tequila and cognac. So maybe
as a former bartender, the name of that drink is disgusting.
I didn't say any of them looked good.
Those two liquors have no business being.
No, I did. That's why I was like, are there any that work together? And there are, but none of them sounded good.
Very, very competing taste.
Oh, I didn't. Again, I'm not recommending it. I'm just saying they exist.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
This is the Dodgers Postcast, your instant game reaction for the Los Angeles Dodgers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
That was a gut-wrenching nail-biter, as I put into the thumbnail. An antacid-filled game, and I'm not even just saying that. I literally had antacids twice during that game. My stomach still feels a little bit upset because I knew if the Dodgers lost that game, they would have lost this series. They needed to win tonight, and somehow, by hook or by crook, they figured out a way to get it done. Let's relive that crazy 11th inning just to kind of remind ourselves that anything is freaking possible.
This is what you'll be talking about.
Don't need home runs. Don't need walk-offs. I mean, it was a walk-off in the end, but they manufactured it by putting the ball in play. Freddie Freeman struck out swinging, got beat by a fastball. Luzardo had them all really off balance. So when they pulled him in the ninth, I was like, amen. Edman then comes up and singles to left.
Time to reveal where the game was won or lost. It's the turning point.
That's it. Tommy Edman getting on base, won the game for the Dodgers. That changed everything. You could also put as a footnote the bases loaded walk to tie the game as another turning point where they walked Ohtani, who's been an absolute lost dumpster fire. I have no idea what that was about. That is just bad managing, Rob Thompson. Shohei Ohtani is worthless at home plate, and you walk him to load the bases, and then Mookie is walked to score the tying run. So either one of those, to me, if you wanted to argue it, could be the turning point of this game. But the Tommy Edman base hit in the 11th was a bigger deal than tying the game, because I think the Dodgers would have figured out a way to tie it anyway. But you never know. They might have lost that game 1-0 if it wasn't for that bases loaded walk. So turning point A and turning point B, you could decide on your own which one you think is more monumental. But Edman's single was huge because that ended up being the winning run. Hesong Kim came in to run for him. Then Will Smith lined out to center, hit the ball hard, but not hard enough. Max Muncy first pitch swinging right up the middle. That sent Hesong to third. And then they took Luzardo out and brought in Kerkering. And I was like, something weird's going to happen here. I was texting with my buddies. I was thinking a wild pitch. Like the first one, he uncorks one because he's so dialed up. But it wasn't a wild pitch. Kike came in and walked. That loaded the bases. And then Andy Pages, who has been due because he's been trying to hit home runs. Listen, we saw over this series and through the postseason for Pages, we have seen the early April and May pull happy Pages, not trying to put the ball in play, not hitting the ball where it is pitched, just trying to hit home runs. That loopy, long, launch angle swing, it's been really bad. So I thought, maybe he'll run into one, but he put the ball in play, and Kerkering uncorked one. Bad throw, run scores, game over, series over. Dodgers win it 2-1 and take the series 3-1 to move on to face either the Cubs or the Brewers. That series is still in doubt as well. Last I saw, the Cubs were up 3-0. That was early. That was like the first inning. But that would tie the series, I believe, sending it back to Milwaukee. Yeah, still up 3-0 in the third. Milwaukee leads that series 2-1. So Cubs win today. It's going back to Milwaukee for a game 5 on Saturday. The Dodgers got it done tonight. Shohei Ohtani was not any part of the reason why. I am so utterly frustrated with what he's doing. It keeps getting worse. And it is, to me, obvious what's going on. He is not reading scouting reports. He's not paying attention to what is being given to him, because I believe it's my opinion. I don't know, because it doesn't seem like that's the type of player that Ohtani is. I feel like, he's a smart guy. If there's something that's going to help him be better at the plate, you would think he would take advantage of it, but he has not. They are working him in a very specific, they were working him in a very specific manner. Down and in, they bring it up a little bit, but still down and in, and then down and away. And he's offering at all of them, at least the first two, because we all know how he loves inside pitches, but he likes them up a little bit. So they're working him down and in. He can't get to it because he's just trying to launch balls out of the park. And then they throw him down and away, or fastball away, and he can't get to it because he's waiting on something else. And it's like they did it 2 or 3 times today to him, down and in, down and in, down and away. And like, if you know that there's a pattern that's pretty predictable, wouldn't you at least sit that pitch, try to make contact? No, he's not. He's just like, see the ball, hit the ball, see the ball, hit the ball, or see the ball, strike out, see the ball, strike out. I mean, it's to me, it's embarrassing. It really is. Like, here's a high leverage situation when the Dodgers could have used him to be a productive member of this team offensively, because that's, he's not playing defense, not pitching today. And he's just up there flailing. Even Dave Roberts talked about it before the game, pulling out the front side. I feel like I say that too much to you guys, and I don't want to continue to beat you over the head with it, but it's just like Dave Roberts is calling it out to the media. Yeah, Shohei's off balance and he's pulling out his front side. Why isn't he saying it to Shohei? Right? Is it because he's an MVP and he's 50 plus home runs again? And it's like, yeah, you're not going to say that to him. Why not? Why not? I mean, this is when you need to step up. This is when you need to say, hey, put your ego aside, and hey, if you got a tip, if you got something for me, share it with me. I mean, maybe he is, and maybe Shohei's just ignoring it. I don't know, but he is just so out of sorts, off balance, just not even close. 0 for 4 today. Did get a walk, so he got on base, but that was an intentional walk. So 2 strikeouts. I mean, it's got to get better, and he's got to look at that iPad and say, how are they pitching me? Maybe I should lean into that a little bit, but he doesn't. I don't know. I don't get it, and I will continue to bitch about it. Sorry, Nando. Terrible today. Terrible in this series. Greg Vallegos says he will come around. He better. It can't get any worse, Greg. That's for damn sure. Mookie Betts 1 for 4 with an RBI. And that was the walk. And Teo 1 for 5. Freddie 1 for 5. Tommy Edman, player of the game, if you asked me. No, sorry, not player of the game. Turning point of the game, Tommy Edman. Player of the game will do right after the break. Will Smith 0 for. Call had a hit. Kike had a hit. Kike was up in some big spots. Walked there to load the bases. That was a huge at bat. And Andy Pajes 0 for 5, but did put that ball in play that won the game for the Dodgers. So that was all that they needed. And we'll take it, right? We will absolutely freaking take it. I don't care how it looks in the box score. They don't draw pictures in the box score. That is a victory in 11 innings where the Dodgers really, taking away the ghost runner was very helpful for the Dodgers. Dodgers have not been great in extra innings this year. I don't know the number. I don't know if I'll be able to look it up during the show. I'll try. Maybe one of you guys could look it up for me. Dodgers post or extra innings record this year. My gut feeling is it hasn't been good. Maybe it's 500, but I feel like it's under 500. I agree with DC. That was crazy. It was. I'm just like, trying to be positive, trying to not say negative things about them, thinking that this is a game that they should lose. But I just felt like with Roki Sasaki in there and what he did, it was, dominant. And that performance to me set the Dodgers up to win this game.
Most people can't name all their financial accounts or even what they're worth, whether it's a 401k or properties or investments. And when you don't have the full picture, you can end up leaving money on the table. That's why there is Monarch Money. It's an all-in-one personal finance tool that brings your entire financial life together in one clean, easy-to-use interface on your laptop or your phone. Monarch does the heavy lifting for you. You can link all your accounts in minutes, see clear data visuals, get smart categorization of your spending, and finally feel in control of your money without ever touching a spreadsheet. I linked all my accounts to Monarch and immediately spotted a few subscriptions I wasn't even using. Canceling those all can save you money every month. Don't let financial opportunities slip through the cracks. Use code LOCKEDONNFL at monarchmoney.com in your browser for half off your first year. That's 50% off your first year at monarchmoney.com with code LOCKEDONNFL.
Folks, it's finally here. A top 10 matchup between Indiana and Oregon. We've previewed this game all week long. People are talking about it. It's the nation's biggest game of the week. It's the Hoosiers and the Ducks.
Yeah, it's an exciting opportunity, to be sure. It's a big chance for Indiana. I don't mean that in a patronizing way. You know, they have not beaten what a lot of people see as a tier 1 brand in college football, and I have given them their flowers over on Locked On College Football, and my top 25 has Indiana in the top 5 because of the manner in which they beat Illinois. You can't look away or disregard Indiana if they go to Autzen Stadium and win. They would be just the second team since Dan Lanning arrived in Eugene to win at Autzen Stadium. The national champions lost at Autzen last year. It has been a great home field advantage no matter who's been the head coach, but Dan Lanning has taken that and really run with it. There have been some big games played here. Game day for Ohio State last year, game day with UCLA, how the mighty have fallen, by the way, in 2022. A big game against Utah in 2022 as well. You know, the list goes on, but this one is certainly up there. Anytime you've got a top 10 team coming to town, it's a tremendous opportunity for Oregon to bolster their resume, prove that, you know, to those who think, oh, see, Penn State's a fraud, they're not any good. Well, all right, they can't all be frauds, right? Like, if you beat 2 top 10 teams in a row, I think it would say a lot about where Dan Lanning has his program right now in year 4 after coming over from Georgia, and he's done a great job, and this would just be another boy. I think more than anything, if Oregon winds up winning this game, especially if they do so comfortably, like if they cover that 7.5 point number, win the game by 10 to 14 points, I think Oregon fans once again will just be saying, man, we got the right guy in charge.
Look, Dan Lanning is a great coach, and the fact that Oregon's been able to keep him, and I think will keep him for the foreseeable future, there's no reason for him to go anywhere, especially with Oregon now being a
He turned down the Alabama job.
Yeah.
Alabama was highly interested in hiring Dan Lanning to be their head coach. I have that on good authority, and Lanning said, we saw the video that he put out. He's good.
I mean, why would you, right? You're one of the best teams in the Big Ten, and you're in the P4 conference now. You're good to go, and that's why Oregon is such a good team, a good program, and a tough place to play. And it seems like, though, Spencer, and you alluded to it there a little bit, so many people are talking about the opportunity for Indiana, right? Indiana can go and do this and do that and earn the respect, and I do think the Hoosiers have the chance to do that, but I'm glad you brought that up, that Oregon can get a big win for their resume too, because who knows what happens to Penn State from this point on. They could be 8-4, 7-5, 9-3, who knows, right? But if you beat Indiana, the Hoosiers are still a good football team, and I think will still go on and win most of their games. This is a resume builder no matter who wins it, right?
Yeah, it definitely is. It's one that, with both teams being undefeated right now, as long as no major injuries happen or there isn't some cataclysmic fall off.
Nice word.
Thank you. I think the winner of this game is a guarantee to the college football playoff. I think the loser is still in control of their own destiny to get there, and I think both will make it. You know, I didn't have Indiana as a preseason playoff pick. I thought they'd miss it by 1 game because, perhaps infamously at this point, I thought they would lose to Illinois, but I still picked them to go 9-3, and I think 10-2 with their schedule should get them into the college football playoff. So if they win this game, there's no way they're going to go 10-2. And if Oregon wins this game, I don't think there's any way that they will go 10-2 or gosh, I guess there is. College football is crazy. I never say never. Sure. It's just that when you look at what these teams have done, what they're capable of, and then what this win will mean for you. Like, that's the dual element of this to me, is it doesn't just show, what you're capable of, but it gives you that win because I think the other team is also that good that I just don't see how you could make how you could miss the playoff if, barring an injury to one of these starting quarterbacks who are both great. And I also want to say, I love this coaching matchup.
It's awesome. It's fantastic.
I think it's phenomenal. I think you have two of the 5 to 8 best coaches in all of college football, and frankly, I don't know how low Cignetti can go outside of the top 5 on the list. Indiana is playing on College game day in his 2nd year. Billy Napier could never.
And you're talking, I think, from several aspects here, from game planning, motivation, in-game coaching, in-game adjustments. Like, he just does all the right things. And I remind people, he comes from the Saban coaching tree. He's old school, man. People make fun of his age. That's fine, but he's old school. And that's what Indiana needed. And it's clearly working, right? And you've got old school versus new school. And again, I love Dan Lanning. I think he's an incredible coach, and he's going to be at Oregon for a long time. But yeah, I'm with you. You've got two dudes going at it who are some of the best in the game of college football, and it could come down to that. It could come down to a coaching decision or a matchup here or there, which we're going to talk about in just a few moments, and all of that is coaching. But I'll remind people, Indiana's 2 losses last year against Ohio State and Notre Dame, they didn't get out-schemed. They didn't get out-game-planned or out-coached. They just got outmatched. They were out-talented. It was clear with the Buckeyes and the Fighting Irish, who played for the national title. They were just better than Indiana. This is a game this week for Oregon and Indiana. The Hoosiers are closer to Oregon than they've been against a top 10 team in a long time in terms of talent. It comes down to coaching and execution this week and on Saturday in Autzen, and I think Indiana has every chance to do that, Spencer.
It does. I still think there's a talent edge for the Ducks here.
But it's a lot smaller than people think.
I think it's a lot smaller than last year, because when you say what people think, what I assume you're referring to is those who are going to, call back in their minds to the Notre Dame game and the Ohio State game and say, see, they weren't even close. No, this team is more talented than that. That much is clear. With the guys they brought back, the guys they brought in, and just the way they've played this year. Last year's Indiana team was really good. I think if they'd played this year's Illinois team, they would have won the football game. I don't think they would have won the game 63-10. Maybe they would have only won it, 38-17 or something like that. I think that they have definitely made strides in a number of areas, particularly up front. I heard this stat from Oregon's radio analyst Mike Jorgensen earlier this week. Indiana, through 5 games, Jacob, has generated 49 tackles for loss. That's a crazy stat.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter who you're playing. That's a testament to the talent, the game plan, and the execution week in and week out. That's about 10 negative plays generated per game on average this year. And a lot of those came against Illinois, who is a good Big Ten team. They're not great, but they are good. I think they get blown out by Ohio State this week. But I just think that for Indiana, their defense cannot be overlooked. I think when people have a first impression of Indiana, it's the offense, because they throw the ball so well.
Yep.
And it should be. But this is not a defense that is to be trifled with. If Oregon's offense goes out in this game, Jacob, and outperforms my statistical prediction and puts up 38 points, my takeaway is going to be, man, can we just sign Will Stein to a raise now and keep him off the coaching carousel for one more year? Because I think this Indiana defense is good, but the good news for the Oregon offense, balance is the key.
The NFL season is here, and FanDuel is making sure you're ready for the weekend with a can't-miss offer. Right now, new customers can bet just $5, and if your bet wins, you'll get $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love using FanDuel because it fits how I want to bet in the moment, whether it's player props, building a same-game parlay, or jumping in live as the action unfolds. It's quick, it's easy, and the best way to add a little more energy to Sunday. So are you ready to play? Download the FanDuel app now by visiting FanDuel.com to get started. That's FanDuel.com to place your first $5 bet.
You are Locked On Buckeyes, your daily podcast on the Ohio State Buckeyes. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
The Buckeyes' rushing attack is improving, and it's shown improvement week after week. However, it must take another leap to reach championship form, which is the goal. You want to make sure that at Ohio State, every single position is at championship form, from the quarterback to the offensive line, D-line, and everything in between. You want to make sure that there aren't any holes on the team. And for the running backs, entering the year, you knew there were going to be two guys that were primarily going to be the ball carriers for the team, and C.J. Donaldson and James Peoples. No one truly knew how Bo Jackson would jump onto the scene. There was a thought that he may have the highest ceiling among those three running backs, but he's a true freshman. And there's two things any true freshman running back has to deal with and must work on very hard before getting on the field. That's ball security, and that is pass protection. And those are two things that Bo Jackson has worked very hard at. And you could have seen the growth and his ability to be pretty good in pass protection. Ball security is still something that he is still working on, but there isn't a running back playing football at any level that isn't still working on ball security. So that's not just something that Ryan Ed's going to preach to Bo Jackson. He's going to give it to Peoples and Donaldson and anybody else in the RB room, really anybody else that touches the ball, because securing the ball is key. But this rushing attack it's weird to put a handle on, to put a finger on and say, this is what it is. This is where, no, you know what it is. You might not know where it can be. Will it be what it was a year ago? Probably not, because I think Ohio State will still be using three running backs all year long. So it won't be a two-headed monster of Henderson and Judkins. I believe it'll be more of a three-headed monster in Donaldson, Peoples, and Jackson. And like we mentioned earlier in the week on this show, in regards to Bo Jackson, maybe he is better as a backup right now versus being a guy that's a starter. And I used some connections and some thoughts that came into my head from the NBA, because it's very easy to use those things. With the NBA, there are certain guys that are better off the bench versus guys that are starters. And there may be guys that are starters that need the ball in their hand the first 2 to 3 times down the court to make sure that they stay engaged, because if you don't, they're mentally not locked in. And we have seen Bo Jackson be phenomenal off the bench. The only times he has rushed for over 100 yards was when he was a backup. He was a starter last week. Looked pretty good. I think they changed the play calls up that limited his productivity based off what he was doing the previous time he was on the field. But I think Bo Jackson has been fine. For the rushing attack, the numbers tell a story, but I think down the road, you might see some games where James Peoples is the lead back. You might see a game where Bo Jackson is a lead back. It's same for Donaldson. It's almost a similar thing to Carnell Tate and Jeremiah Smith. Whichever guy is going on that day, feed him. But do it in the flow of the offense. Don't force feed him to where the offense isn't flowing very well because you're trying to make sure somebody's happy. No, you feed him in the flow of the offense. And there may be people like you, because I know I do this all the time, where I say feed Bo, or I really had to say feed CJ. And really I ain't said feed James yet, because they haven't shown the type of running ability that Bo Jackson has already showed. But I believe that there will be times that I'll be out there tweeting with my computer right there while watching the game, where I will start saying, feed Bo. Give him the rock. Run the ball. Because if you want to make a quarterback's job easier, you want to make sure you give that man, the guys behind him, the ball. Because that's going to do certain things to the defense. That's going to dictate certain calls based off certain looks that Ohio State is doing. One thing that Tom Brady did very, very well, not only with setting up the run game, but the Patriots always used motion to try to figure out if the defense is in a man or a zone. Now, granted, they can change that post-snap, and it can be something that trips you up. But if going in motion allows you to get some shifting going on with the defense, well, that will help the running back get a quick picture of, okay, they're motioning to the right, but somebody's not moving, which means they might be in that gap where I was planning on going. Maybe this play is still going to be ran and we go somewhere else, or maybe we alter and call an audible. Those things are very important. So I think for the Buckeyes rushing attack, it's easy to complain, but the Buckeyes are averaging 171.6 rushing yards per game. Comparing that to the team they're playing this week, I think you'll be very I think he'll be satisfied with not only Ohio State's rushing attack, but how they stack up to other teams. Illinois is only averaging 130.7 rushing yards per game with a pretty poor 3.7 yards per carry. Ohio State's averaging 5.1 yards a carry. So we can gripe and complain and say, oh, the rushing attack isn't good or it needs to be worked on. That is true. I'm not saying it's not. What's also true is that the rushing attack, while it needs to improve, has done a lot of things pretty well this year. Some numbers for you on the guys that are the three lead backs for Ohio State. Bo Jackson leads the way among these three in carries, rushing yards per carry. He doesn't lead the team in rushing touchdowns, though. Bo Jackson has 48 carries, 360 yards, 7.5 yards a pop, and 2 touchdowns. Donaldson, 45 carries, 193 rushing yards, 4.3 yards a pop, and 4 touchdowns. The last part might shock you. James Peoples has 35 carries, 195 rushing yards, 5.6 yards a pop. So he has 10 less carries than Donaldson, but has a higher yards per carry average and has 2 more rushing yards. And that is a big reason why. And I didn't even know that before putting this show together. I think that's a big reason why you might see Peoples more often than you see Donaldson. And by the middle of the year, well, more so in November, when you get to Penn State and beyond, all those games in November, you might see a scenario where Bo Jackson starts and Peoples is the first back off the bench, and Donaldson turns into your short yardage back. But where he's not only a short yardage back, that might be his role for this team. And one thing Shaquille O'Neal always says, another basketball reference here on the show, is that you cannot win a championship without the others. You can't. And you think about what Shaq did with the Lakers and in Miami, it was the others. You had an older Gary Payton there in Miami who was very pivotal and big for the Heat to win the NBA Finals. You had in this repeat with the Lakers, guys like Derek Fisher and Devin George. I haven't said that name in a long time. You had guys that were the others, Robert Horry, Big Shot Bob. You had guys that were the perfect role players for that team, for the team to win not 1, not 2, but 3 NBA championships. And if Ohio State wants to win back-to-back national championships, they're going to have to get the running game to get up to speed a little bit quicker. I know the numbers aren't bad, but the numbers can be better. And I think it's the biggest thing for this team to do to get the championship form is to figure out the right rotation, figure out how to get one guy hot and figure out what he works best with, and then roll with the punches. The best thing about Ohio State's schedule is you have not so much the next 2 games being on the road, but there is an off week in between the road trip to Camp Randall and then the home game against Penn State. Because I think that game is going to be a big statement for Ohio State. I have Ohio State winning that game. I'll make that known here early on, a few weeks before that game is played. I think Ohio State wins. Not sure by how much, but I do think in that game you could see Ohio State, instead of trying to throw the ball all around the yard, try to set the tone in the trenches.